a cup of hot steamy coffee or a cup of hot chocolate. The first biscotti, often referred to as biscotti di Prato, were created in 14th century Tuscany in the city of Prato and were made from almonds, which were very abundant in that region. It is baked twice. The second baking draws moisture out of the biscotti and renders it almost like a hard cracker. Biscotti turned out to be an ideal food to store. So in this biscotti, we're using 1 1/3 cups of all-purpose flour and 3/4 of a cup of graham flour. Graham flour is the name given to coarsely ground whole wheat flour, but the type of wheat can vary in terms of protein content and hardness and softness. Graham flour lends a robust honey flavor and a rustic texture to baked goods. And nowhere is it more evident than something like this biscotti. Add a teaspoon of baking powder. Make sure it's fresh. And 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. 1/4 of a cup of hemp seeds. These are very unusual, and they come from the hemp plant, the stalks of which were long harvested for non-food uses like clothing and rope, and they're now really celebrated for their high levels of essential fatty acids, protein, and antioxidants. And it's part of, believe it or not, the cannabis family, but it's not to be confused with what is cultivated as marijuana. This is 1/4 of a teaspoon of allspice and fennel seeds. 1 tablespoon of whole fennel seeds. Oh, it smells like licorice. It's so good. And some baking soda, 1 teaspoon. So all your dry ingredients are sifted by whisking. And in the bowl of your mixer, 3/4 of a cup of light brown sugar and 2 large eggs. So mix the sugar and the eggs together. With 1 teaspoon of vanilla and the grated zest of 1 bright-skinned orange. It's about a teaspoon of orange rind. And really just grate the bright orange outer rind off. You don't want any of that white pith. That's about a teaspoon. And 1 vanilla bean that's been cut lengthwise and then scraped of its seeds. And just add those seeds. This is all the flavor. And put this into your sugar bowl. Mix and just add your dry ingredients. It's a very dry dough that you bake in a flat loaf and then slice it and bake the slices again. You don't stop beating until the bottom is all incorporated. Just add 3/4 of a cup of almonds. And you don't want to beat the almonds too much because you don't want to crush them. And they are whole almonds with the skins on. And they're considered one of the world's oldest cultivated foods. They're an ancestor of stone fruits, and they grow on trees similar in size and shape to peach trees. So here we have the almonds. Try to get them all mixed in with the dough. We'll form this into a long loaf, and 2 tablespoons of turbinado raw sugar, the crystally kind, and 2 tablespoons of white sesame seeds. Such a pretty mix. Mix this around. And you're going to put this all over your loaf once you form it. So 12 inches by 3 inches. Just get it crusted with the lovely sesame seeds and sugar. And now put this on a parchment-lined baking sheet. Any excess seeds just pat into the top and bake in a preheated 350-degree oven until golden brown. That takes about 30 minutes. Set your timer. Now, let the loaf cool before you try to cut it into 1/3 of an inch thick slices. You'll get about 35 slices out of this loaf, and you can basically just bake it right on the same parchment paper. You'll need 2 cookie sheets for the next step, and then just start slicing about 1/3 of an inch. The end, eat. And so just keep cutting. You want them pretty thin because traditionally biscotti are a thin, crispy cookie. And this is where the second baking comes in. But look how pretty these are. And the almonds themselves are so beautiful when they're sliced. And once you're done slicing, put these back into the oven, again 350 degrees, and bake for just about 10 minutes. So serve 1 or 2 with your favorite coffee. It'll make the conversation even more interesting. Make sure you cool the biscotti completely before storing, preferably in a metal tin, which will help maintain its crispness. If stored too quickly or placed inside of a paper or plastic bag, the biscotti will soften and they won't be biscotti. It can be kept in an airtight container at room temperature for about a week. Not only are these crunchy treats delicious, but packed in a pretty tin, they would make a terrific hostess gift.